Welcome to Verde's Folding Chair, a podcast about making space at the table for Black women, independent writers, and marginalized people. Verde's Folding Chair is about making space for our voices, existence, and lived experiences. Zora Neale Hurston said, "If you're silent about your pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it." This podcast is the opposite of being silent. Come on and bring your folding chairs and pull up at the table. I promise to make space for you, Rainbow Peeps and Friends. Black women. The first segment of Verde's Folding Chair will always and forever be dedicated to the Black woman. By a Black woman, but intended for everyone. Why? The most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman. Malcolm X. Black women are a reflection of God. Black women are beautiful. Black women are talented. Black women are creative. Black women are determined. Black women are powerful and dangerous. Black women deserve better. All right, Rainbow Peeps and Friends, today I'm excited to welcome and make space at the table for Black queer author Tuesday Harper. Her writing career spans a decade. Harper is the author of over 30 Black queer sapphic novels, a revolutionary activist in pushing Black queer books out of the margins. Harper has curated a database to highlight Black LGBTQ plus stories and authors while celebrating our community. Her latest book, Trilogy, is available now on Amazon. Join me in welcoming to the table author Tuesday Harper. I'm excited to have you pull up at the table with me today. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
It's
doing Friday.
Good. It is, and I'm on summer break, so it's been Friday for me for a lot of days.
Yeah.
So I'm chilling.
I'm on author time, so I feel you.
It must be nice. You got to tell me
Yeah.
how to get on author time. I want that career. Well, we're gonna go ahead and start off right in the deep end. All right. So, what does it mean to be your mother's child?
You sent me these questions before, and I was like, man, what does it mean to be Robin's daughter? Shout out, mama.
Yeah, shout out Miss Robbins.
So me and my mom, we have a really interesting relationship. You know, she was a teen mom. I'm her only daughter. Very much her biggest headache and have always been. But I don't know if like anybody can relate to being the daughter of a teen mom. You literally just are paying for your mother's mistakes from jump. Like, don't be like your mama. Don't get pregnant like your mama. Like y'all, I'm 6, so relax. So I mean, I think because of that, I was like really gung ho. Maybe it's my personality too. Really gung ho on just like not like really defining who I am outside of her. So I think that question was really tough. Yeah, I love my mama. We cool. We have a weird mother-daughter thing going. We're probably better friends than we are mother-daughter now. And then with the age gap, I have friends that I'm cool with, that I hang out with, that are older than my mama, because she's only 50 and I'm 33.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dynamic that we have.
Yeah, and also you while you were growing up, your mom was also growing up, right?
Yeah. When I said it when we were both younger, I would get in trouble a lot. But when she turned 50, I was like, you know, I did good with you. I raised you right. And she finally was like, thank you. Because we grew up together.
Yeah.
And I mean, even I'm really close to my grandma, and my mom would like do stuff, and then she would yell at me, and she'd like, you better not tell your grandma, because it would be like, we like sisters almost. Like, I'm running to tell grandma what you did to me, and you about to be in trouble. I don't care. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic we got going on. But it's finally peaceful, at least.
The daughter relationships, they are their own very special dynamics. I think we should talk more about those relationships. We hear a lot about the fathers, you know.
Yeah, I don't have kids, but I've raised many, and I've raised teenagers, and I have like apologized. I was like, I see what you're saying now. I see what you're saying now.
Yeah,
this ain't
it. I don't have any kids either, but I always say I think the parents' responsibility and like your number one goal is just to try not to fuck up the kid. You know, that's like it. Like try to do the least amount of damage and love them.
Yeah.
and protect them. So
That's
yeah,
true. That's very true. I agree with that.
because there's gonna be damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So thanks for answering that. So, what was it like growing up as Tuesday Harper? And how does where you're from and those experiences shape you as an author and the stories that you tell?
No, my mom was a teen mom. My grandma was a teen mom.
Mm.
My family's kind of crazy. We grew up in like a small town, kind of poor, but my family's very wild. From like the top to the bottom. Like my great grandma, she passed away when I was like 18, but I grew up around her, and like people don't think I'm like they think I'm lying. I'm like my great grandma was a crip, like she sold drugs, all type of stuff. So like
I'm
I had like
sorry for
just a
laughing.
very just a very like dramatic, so much happening all the time type of family. But I can't say, so much happening, everybody like having so much going on. Like there wasn't a lot of judgment because there was no
Mhm.
room for judgment. There was like a lot of acceptance. I call him my uncle. He's my great uncle, but
Mhm.
him and my mom, they're close in age. So he is a gay man. And growing up in the 90s, seeing him exist as a gay man was, he was really the only gay one I remember being around, but it was really
Yeah,
empowering.
that's
We,
awesome.
in a small town in the projects, the
Mhm.
kids would say stuff, but I
Being
never
black.
heard an adult, yeah, being black, I never heard any adult say anything until one day somebody, called him a slur, and my uncle walked over to him, punched him in the nose, like laid him flat out.
Damn.
And that was the last time I ever saw like anybody. And I was like, that's why. That's why nobody says anything. But that
Yeah.
kind of shaped me because I was like, well, dang, ain't nobody gonna be saying that to me either.
I'm gonna get my uncle on you.
Yeah, I mean, just learning to not take stuff from other people and really just be okay with myself. Because I mean, my family didn't really care, don't care. So it's like, what you gonna really say to me that I'm not gonna pop you in the mouth for?
Yeah, even in the dramatics of that one,
Hmm.
it probably made for great stories to tell in
Yeah,
in your
a lot of
imagination.
stories to tell.
And then two, there's some beauty in not being judged for loving who you love, and because
Hmm.
that's not everybody's experiences. It's certainly not mine to a large
Yeah.
extent. For like, I remember I had a cousin, God rest his soul. We all just assumed that he was gay by his mannerisms. He never had girlfriends, and my family didn't really treat him very nicely. It wasn't until he
Yeah.
got older and got sick that really people were less focused on, whispering behind his back about him being gay, and more,
Mm.
as a family, we love you no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the beauty in that, right? To not have to
Yeah.
even worry about the whispers.
I'm really lucky in that, despite all the trauma and
Yeah.
drama, I'm very
Yeah.
grateful to have always gotten acceptance from my family. And I remember my older brother, and he's always been a really big guy. So he's like hovering over me. And he's like,
Hmm.
what's your preference? What's your preference? And I was
Wow.
like, I prefer women. And he literally was like, my gosh, I'm so happy. I don't have to chase after no boys. I'm like, I really thought she was about to beat me
Okay.
up. It's like, we didn't have to do all that. But, I've just really been lucky on that front to have people that
Mm.
not only like support me, accept me, but like lift me up. Like my grandma be giving me women advice, and she always has like, you better not let them women treat you. Okay, grandma.
Oh
So I've been really lucky
yeah.
on that front.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, my grandma's she
uh
be setting me straight.
yeah, she got your back,
Yeah,
for being treated right. Yeah. What's the story behind your name Tuesday? Which I love. It's a pretty dope name, especially for a writer.
it's so funny because it's literally I just picked a name on a random name generator, and I was like Tuesday
Oh, I
sounds
see.
cool. Yeah,
It does.
I was born on a Tuesday, so I mean I guess it has some significance. which I didn't know
That's dope.
beforehand. My mom was like, "Did you know?" And I was like, "No, girl, you was there, but I don't remember that." So it's no significance
Uh,
behind it. It's just random.
and it's Tuesday Harper, so it's like, wow, that just flows,
Yeah, Harper is my
Um,
real last
do
name,
you
so
okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, do you think it's important for black queer writers to have black editors or black queer editors to edit their stories?
Yes, what did LM call it? The blackisms. It's
Yeah.
true. Like, it's very true. And it's not just like the way we talk or the words we use and that being understood, though that's one of the big things because with like AAVE, a lot of people don't understand it in context or out of it, but it's also like the things our mannerisms, the way we perceive the world, the way the world perceives us. So if
Mhm.
you having to argue with your editor about this, that, and the third, that's just kind of, it's like a bad experience for both of y'all really, but mainly an author
Yeah.
trying to get themselves heard. You having to fight and explain yourself when you really shouldn't have to.
Yeah. Have you had that experience?
No, thankfully I have an in-house editor, aka
Nice.
wifey. So
Yeah.
I'm
I
more
know about
so,
those
she's more
in-house
so like,
editors.
girl, this don't make sense, or you spelled this wrong, or she giving me the blues in a different way.
Yeah. And they're the hardest. So, cuz they
Yes,
want the
she has
best. They want the
expectations of
best.
me. So yeah.
Yeah. You write romance, lesbian, erotica, and fantasy. Which do you find the most fun to write?
Probably romance. There's something really fun about falling in love and like almost get butterflies like writing it sometimes. This is fun.
Like going into your
Yes.
character's life and experiencing them
Yeah.
falling in love for the
They're,
first time.
they're like their head, especially like when you have really good developed characters and you kind of like know their backstory, know their history and the
Yeah.
things they've had to overcome to get to the point of loving someone and accepting love from someone. It's like, it's nice.
You write characters that are unapologetically black and queer as fuck. Why is this important for your books to have this representation?
I've gotten a lot of acceptance, love, just being able to be myself. But I know that's a unique experience and not a lot of people experience that. A lot of people, they don't
Hmm.
have support. They don't have community. They feel a lot of shame because of the way people treat them, or other them. And they might not even like be around other queer people or black queer. So to be able to give that example of people who are unapologetically black and queer as
Hmm.
fuck, being loved, being happy, living their lives. I think it's really important because I mean, some people they wouldn't see it otherwise.
Yeah. So just making sure that power is represented in the novel, let people know that the possibility exists if you're in a world where you
Exactly.
don't see it. Hmm.
Exactly.
All right.
Especially, just
Sorry.
being loved. Not a lot of people realize like you're worthy of being loved despite all of what those other people say.
Absolutely. And thank you. We need that. We need those types of stories in the world.
Trying.
What reality TV show should we join and you and your wife and binge watching this summer? Because I learned that y'all binge watch, which I do too. So what
Yeah.
should we be binging though?
We are definitely some binge watchers. Reality shows, not so much lately. Me and my
Yeah.
wife, we actually, at the beginning of the year, we started dating someone. So it's me, my wife, and our girlfriend. And our girlfriend doesn't
Hmm.
like reality TV. That's kind of
Okay.
changed what we're watching.
Hmm.
I think the last thing we watched was Star Trek Discovery because she wanted to watch it with us. So now we're
Okay. I have a friend who asked me if I was watching Discovery. So I guess I need to get into it because
yeah, it's pretty good.
they write fanfic from I guess some of the characters who may have some. Is there lesbians in there, or do they have innuendos to that?
There's no lesbian characters, I don't think. There's two non-binary characters, but
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good show.
Okay. I have to check it out and see what's up. My next question, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's just being tossed around everywhere. Teaching true history and banning multicultural and ethnic books from the classroom to don't say gay rhetoric, along with all the other anti-LGBTQ plus laws being pushed. That's just a short list of how racism and white supremacy and homophobia is on the rise in this country. So, looking at things through this lens, what is it like living as a married black queer woman in the South in 2024?
Well, I mean, I've never lived outside of the South, mainly
Mm-hmm.
Texas, which is, usually top offender right after like Florida. We top offender on the crazy stuff. But I mean, I've also never really lived, I guess, outside of like, you kind of learn to be on high alert living
Mm-hmm.
here and probably just being black, period, in America. So it's like I've never not been on high alert. It's not really that much of a difference. I'm thankful that I do
Being
live
on
in a
high
big
alert.
city now. Yeah, exactly. We live in Dallas. We live, mainly black and brown communities. So we feel safer here. But it is sometimes you look around, you're like, we might need.
You
It's
getting
getting
them
kind of
looks, you
crazy.
getting them stares.
Not really like in public. Cause I mean, Dallas is like super diverse and you can't really go anywhere without running into gay people, queer people, an ex-girlfriend. So I mean, it's really just like the state of the world. Probably most black people, most queer people have looked around in 2024 and be like, where can I go? Because this
That
doesn't feel right.
You know what? I just want to take a pause on you saying that being black puts you on high alert. That's just a moment of pause
Hmm.
because that's why we all need therapy. You know what I mean? We all need to be
Yeah.
in therapy. And that's all I'm going to say about that because that was a very powerful thing to say. And it's true. Just
Yeah, I
being
mean, like
black.
I said, I lived in a small town for most of growing up, and we were like the only black kids in our neighborhood, not even just the street. So it's like anytime something happened, it was them N-word kids, or it was kids telling us like, "Oh, my daddy's home, so I can't play with N-words when he's here." So
Oh, man.
just having lived in a really like really racist like, and I'm not like I wouldn't grow up in the 60s. This is like the early 2000s, you know what I mean? So
Right.
it's just always been a part of my existence, unfortunately. And so it's like, it's not changed, unfortunately, but it's
Yeah.
not getting better. That would be nice if it got better.
The thing is, when you live in more liberal states like California or New York or in some of the
Hmm.
northern places, the facade that things,
Yeah.
are different and better. They kind of camouflage a lot of the racism and things like that. I went to school in the South. I went to a
Hmm.
HBCU, and one of the things
Me
I
too.
nice. What HBCU did you go to?
I went to Hampton.
Oh, okay, HU. Yeah. I
Hmm.
went to Fisk University.
Okay.
The racism was just right there in your face and I respected it.
Yeah.
Don't be pretending cuz there's a lot of pretending here in California
Yeah.
and you have to it's a lot of what's that word everybody using? Gaslighting. Really, it's
Yeah,
just
it's very
lying, right? You're
gaslighting.
just lying. You're
Hmm.
pretending that this racism that I'm experiencing isn't happening because you would never be racist. You're a
Hmm.
Californian. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Um, so what does it mean to be living in your unapologetic era, as you called it?
I tend to be the type to kind of do what I want and just stick my middle finger up afterwards. So, I mean, I've always kind of been like that. But
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, as you get older, your tendency to do that is probably even more. So, I just kind of do what makes me feel good, do what feels right in my little spirit at the
Yeah,
time.
good for
Um,
you.
yeah, it's
It's
great.
gonna You're gonna give even less fucks.
Yes,
as
yes.
you head into your 40s, because somewhere around there, I think, I don't know just in general for sure, but I am a black woman, so I'm going to speak from that experience. I think that,
Mm,
just some of the things we're even talking about right now, the more you experience them, the less patience you have for it, and the more you call it out and just reject some of the things that we have to experience just being black and being a
hmm.
woman and then also being queer. I read that I read that your grandma asked you to come read some of your book about, and I quote, because this is not my words, smutty lesbian witches, to her book club. So did you do it, and how did that turn out?
Thankfully, I did not. Thankfully,
I
thankfully, I
was
don't know
looking
if she
forward to a good
forgot or,
story.
oh man. I mean, my grandma, she reads so many of the books and my mom too. And I told them, y'all can read them, but like, stop asking questions. Stop asking
That's got to be the
so many
best part.
questions.
You should record some of these questions and conversations for the
Especially my
archive.
grandma will, my grandma will kind of give me some reprieve. But my mom, me and like our interesting relationship, the stuff she'll be asking me, like, girl, I don't want to talk to you about that. I don't want to talk to you about that. You are
Oh
my mother,
man.
stop. But no, I
Yeah.
thankfully did not have to read smutty lesbian witches to my granny and them. Not yet.
Darn.
Maybe she'll remember. I hope not.
What practices do you participate what practices do you
I read a lot, all types of different things. I try to read every day, even if I'm not like finishing books. I write for sure every day,
Mhm.
even if it's just a couple sentences. You have to, those two for sure, you have to be writing and reading to get better at writing. And then
Absolutely.
also just living, you have to have experiences and have conversations with people and experience life to write about life.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
I had an editor, her name was Kate Juniper. She said that basically everything you do is writing. That's what she said. It
yeah.
just gave me a different perspective on writing. So she's like, you don't always have to pressure yourself to be in the act of it, because
Mhm.
there are, sometimes you're writing just by sitting still, and
Yeah,
just from that, you just learn a lot. It's like, because you can pick up on a lot just from just observing sometimes, and not necessarily, always pressuring yourself, but definitely reading. um
for sure.
Reading definitely inspires me, yeah, to write more.
Yeah.
All
I
right, so
don't have a writing degree, but I took creative writing in high school, and one of the things we would do, my teacher would take us like out to just sit somewhere in public and watch people for 10 minutes, and then we would basically like come back and write what we
I
saw.
love that.
So that kind
Hmm.
of taught me like you have to really immerse yourself in thought and in the details of life to kind of really, get the essence of it.
Hmm. Yeah. As a I'm a teacher. I don't know if you know that.
Mhm.
So that's what my next question's about. So as a middle
God
school
bless you.
educator, I'll take all those blessings. As a middle school educator, I see a lot of young people struggling with their sexuality, being true to who they are, just out of fear of their family, their friends, a lot of social rejections, some to the point of self-harm and running away from home. What insights or advice would you like to share with young people on just grappling with their sexuality and their identity?
It's really cliche, and a million people have said it, but it does get better. You know, it does get better. But that's really the best advice because it's true. I got a lot of acceptance for my sexuality, but I dealt with like a lot of trauma, abuse, just nonsense.
Hmm.
So it was like there were times where, I was dealing with a lot and didn't know. It's like,
Yeah.
man, if I only make it to 18. And once I did, I was like, not having to deal with these people, not
Yeah.
having to deal with this, my life is so much better. I can just be
Absolutely.
myself. Nobody bothers me, so it gets better. You find new friends, new family, new ways of thinking. It gets better. You just have to wait until it does.
Mhm. I like that. I like the just providing some hope to our young people. Just the reality is that our young people are just, I don't know if they're different, but they're just more in tune with their emotions, I think, than
Yeah.
maybe other generations or even were allowed to be. And so
Hmm.
sometimes those emotions can get real raw and they just want to escape. So, reminding our young people, like, hey, this isn't the end, you know, I think
Yeah.
that's an important
It's not
message as
even
well.
it's not even really the beginning, really, in a lot of cases, because it's like you're so young, you don't really have, unfortunately, so many kids, they don't have a say in where they live, where they're at, even what they wear, stuff like that. So it's like your beginning doesn't even start until later. Once you're 18
Yep.
and you're away from your parents, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, a little bit more access to your freedoms.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, my next question is about your writing process. How do you come up with the ideas and how do they come to you? And then what's the process for completing a story for you? What is that like?
We have a pretty chaotic mind and a chaotic process. But it works for me. I have ADHD, so my mind is always going and I always have story ideas and just I could like look at a look at this, like look at a bird and be like, man, what if they're like
Yeah.
bird scientists and they just start hunching in the jungle? And I come up with like tons and tons and tons of ideas. And usually while coming up with those ideas, I'm also working on something else. So I'll just write down all my ideas. And the one that, later on when I have the time is still sticking out to me, I'll pluck that one out and I'll
Mhm.
just add to it. Just be like, okay, they're hunching in the jungle and then, like some gorillas, come in like guerrilla warfare and they kidnapped him. So you just kind of add to it. I
Yeah.
am an outliner, but I kind of chaotically outline. I basically write from the beginning to the end, everything I think of the book,
Yes.
just write it all down. It's like in a 4, 5, 6 page document of every detail I can think of in my head. And then I'll take that and
I
just
like
add
that.
to it and write
Mhm.
according to whatever I've dumped out on the page. And I'm a pretty quick writer, and also, I'm just writing right now, so it only takes me probably about 2 to 3 weeks to kind of get from beginning idea to let's get it to the editor.
That's a
So
blessing right there.
yeah, I try because I'd get bored with things really easily, even if they come from my
Mhm.
own mind. So if I don't write it fast, it probably won't happen. So it's like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
has to get out of my head and on paper. Because like after a month, I'm just like, why are they bird scientists? That doesn't even make any
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
I start picking at it. I'm like, yeah, it
It's
starts.
like using that ADHD as a strength,
It's
really.
just, yeah. So I have to I blaze through a lot. I'm not just Tuesday either, so that kind of helps.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
multiple different, pen names. So I kind of just get it all out there as fast as possible. Dictate a lot. Somebody was asking if you like listen to music. And I was like, my favorite setup is having the TV going, playing a game on my phone and dictating at the same time. So
Oh,
it's like,
wow.
yeah, it's like just like a dopamine waterfall, just so much going on, so much
Oh, man. I could
stimulus. So
never. I could never. What authors currently inspire you to continue to write?
everybody, because I'm a Virgo, I'm pretty competitive. So it could be somebody I don't even know, and they'd be like, I'm coming out with a book next week, and I'd be like, well, I'm going to too. Let me go write.
You got that competition spirit. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
just
Kobe,
just a little bit,
like
yeah.
MJ.
It's not really like even comparative, like I'm gonna write better than it's just like you coming out with a book, I'm gonna come out with two. And I can't always
Nice.
pull that off, but every once in a
Hmm.
while I'm like, you know what?
You know what? When I was looking through, I was like, oh. My God, I need to do better. That's what I concluded.
I,
Like,
I wouldn't think I wouldn't compare. Yeah, I've written
what in the
probably
world? I'm
over
like,
60 books.
yes. You know what? That's what I say to that. That's a beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, like, how can you? Wow, do you have a full time job?
No.
that
That's why I'm like
okay.
so that's part of it. That's the main thing. I haven't had a full-time job in 3 years. So I
Oh
spent a
man,
lot of
that's got to
time
be beautiful.
writing. It
Hmm.
sometimes is, and it's sometimes bill collectors calling me. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's just
yeah.
ups and downs. But bill collectors were calling me before, so I guess there's not really that much of a difference. But
Right. They always
uh,
gonna be
I,
calling, girl. But
they are, especially for them
you
student
know,
loans.
yeah. All right. And that's look, I ain't even gonna get off into that. I was about to go somewhere, but let me try to get these student loans forgiven before, the next whoever is gonna be in office, because God help
Yeah.
us. Anyway, tell us about three black queer authors we must add to our TBR list. Who we gotta put on there? Give me three.
All right. I've never heard the name, so I might mispronounce the name. Sula Sullivan,
Okay. I've never
Tamara,
heard of.
yeah, Sula Sullivan,
Mhm.
Tamara Jure, and Raquel Raylan.
Yeah. Thank
So
you. Thank you for
authors you
that.
probably haven't heard about, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, you should make a effort to read them because they're pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. What advice are you giving an up and coming, aspiring to be published black queer writer, specifically as it relates to our stories being pushed out of mainstream and major publishing houses, which is something I know you're really passionate about.
Hmm. Yeah, I my advice would to be write your book and don't let all the
Hmm.
outside things kind of because people are going to say, oh, because it's a black book, because it's a queer book. I've not had a full-time job in 3 years and I get a royalty check every month. So there's money to be made.
Yeah.
It's not,
You
I'm
sound
not a
like my
big
friend.
time. Yeah, I don't have a Netflix deal. I write my books. I have my side gigs. Like there's money to be made. There's a huge audience for black queer anything because we still are so like underrepresented in every type of
Absolutely.
media. So if you have an idea, you don't know what you're doing, just do it. And then when you get there are tons of people who will help you, who will lift you up, who will edit the books, make the
Yeah.
graphics, edit the movie, like, so if we have to tell our stories because nobody else is going to. That's really what it
That
comes
is
down to.
I couldn't have said it better. We have to tell our stories because nobody else is going to. And this summer, actually, it started in February. It's the first time I was really like out and about in public selling my book, and
Hmm.
just getting the response that I got from people was so fulfilling and cup filling and just shocking, really. That like people really
Yeah,
want these black queer stories, and not just black people. Other people want
yeah,
to know, right? So it was like, okay, you're interested, just genuinely.
yeah. I think it's a lot of misconceptions about black people in the book publishing world, the book community, but also in the niche of that, black queer books. But people want to hear our stories. They want to know.
Hmm. You know what I thought about when you just said that, how they tell actors and actresses, like, basically your movie won't sell, so we can't produce it, or your movie won't do well overseas, and different
Exactly.
things like that they say to really continue to keep us marginalized, not just in publishing, but in all different mediums. So
Exactly. The
add that
standard
to the
is
list
set
of.
by people who are out of touch. So there's,
Yeah,
we got to tell our stories. They deserve to be heard.
absolutely. Yeah. um Tell us about your latest book trilogy. Take You Home, You've Been on My Mind, and You Stole My Heart. What about this collection will keep us reading? Now, before you answer that, I started reading this trilogy the other day and I'm all in. I think I hopefully I'm starting with Take You Home, because She was
Yeah.
in the car in the cab and she just
Yeah.
got out. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So is that the first book, right?
Yes.
So I was
And
like, I got sucked in right away.
you got to give me a second because I've slept a few times and I've written a few books since then. But I'm gonna
Okay.
catch up with you. I think what I like about those stories, those three stories the most is kind of just like the instant, because it is a second chance romance. They were friends in college in the same orbit, but they both had a crush on each other and didn't tell each other. So when they
hmm
see each other again,
Don't
you
give
know,
us too
like
much. Don't give us too much.
I'm not gonna give you too much. When they see each
Okay.
other again, it's like sparks fly, and it's just like
Mm.
you immediately just fall into the pool of emotions with them. Other stuff gonna happen, stuff, life is life. So it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just, I'm giving you a little bit. That's just a couple pages though. We gonna take a ride. So I think that's what I like about them too. Been considering like a little spin-off book, but I'm not sure because
Okay.
it's like their whole little friend group. In my mind, it sounded good, but I wrote these three books over a year ago.
Oh wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So build or fold. Okay. This is the question I ask every guest on Verde's folding chair. Okay. So like all challenges to tearing down oppression, there are philosophical differences on how we accomplish this goal. If there's one thing history has shown us, it is that there should be many paths to achieving this goal because the institution is massive and ever changing. From Diane Nash to Asada Shakur, Ella Baker and Angela Davis, from Malcolm X to Dr. King and Du Bois and Booker and Garvey, they all had the same goal, but they had different paths on how we should achieve it. My ancestors are the reason these tables exist in the first place. So I've decided to take my rightful place at the table and make space. What about you? Are you building your own table or bringing a folding chair? And tell us why.
In a way, both, because I think because I've been doing this so long, kind of people look to me in ways that I didn't initially expect to like be an example or set the mood or set the tone or like, oh, Tuesday's doing that, or Tuesday's saying this. So in a
Mhm.
way, I've had to build my own table, but I find myself a lot of times in leadership roles, but I don't necessarily find like, I'm not really a leader. I'm perfectly fine bringing a folding table to your table.
Mhm.
I love sitting here and bringing food to come along with it and playing a
Yeah.
game of spades too. So,
Yes.
but I think that's kind of what we all are doing more or less. We are building for ourselves, but also trying to find ways to connect to others and bringing our chairs along with us.
Beautiful answer. All right. Uh I think that's all the questions I have for you Tuesday. All right,
Alrighty.
Rainbow Peeps and Friends. I'm your host, Verde Arzu, sitting down with our special guest, the multifaceted author, Tuesday Harper. Be sure to visit TuesdayHarper.com to pick up a copy of any of her more than 30 books and to also learn more about other Black queer writers through the List of Black Women Loving Women Books database. All right, you can keep up with her daily by following on IG and threads at Tuesday Writes. It's been a pleasure having you at the table today, Tuesday. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and I just appreciate it. This was great. This is fun.
Yeah. Teachers are powerful. Tap in. Did you do your homework? Fact. Teachers are the worst homework doers. I believe that. Remember, our assignment was to Google ACLU, Cal Action, State of Black Education, and read over the report. Hopefully you were able to do that or at least skim over it just a little bit, and you're planning on going back to it to continue to review it and look over its findings. I just want to start off by saying when I say teachers are powerful, it is with the understanding that teachers are powerful. It's that they are both positively and negatively powerful. Okay. I remember every teacher I had from kindergarten through high school. That is how impactful school was, and the teachers who served me were. I remember the ones who were excellent and the ones who were incredibly harmful. They are all the reasons I teach. My passion for education comes from these experiences as a Black student in the inner city of Chicago. I feel like I was grossly undereducated, and so were my siblings. Reading this report only shows what Black folk already know. Since the day our ancestors were brought here in chains, it was meant for us to remain that way. Side note, Africans explored the Americas before slavery, but that's for you to read and learn about, okay? But anyway, but because we are more than, many of us continue to fight to overcome systems of white supremacy and racism daily. And we do it while these same systems continue to play in our faces and tell us what we are experiencing isn't happening. We do it while the nation and the world watches and nods as it is displayed across the morning, afternoon, and evening news daily. We watch a man who, if he were Black or Latinx or Asian American or Indian American or any other color other than white, would be at the very least unable to run for president ever again, and at the most in prison for his felonious crimes. So, unfortunately, this report does not shock me in any way. It reminds me that we continue to fight systems of racism and white supremacy because we have no choice. I'll start with a brief reading of this report until the next episode. So, I'm just going to give a little snippet, okay? Here it is right here. Okay. Check it out, please. Join me. State of Black Education 2024 California Report. 70 years after Brown v. Board. Black students in California still experience unequal treatment, opportunities, and outcomes 70 years after the Brown v. Board case ruled separate education for Black students was inherently unequal. Longitudinal analysis of 40 years of California Department of Education data reveals two extremely problematic trends with Black students requiring immediate attention. One, school closures are most common in schools with Black students. Two, and a Black exodus exists with a 47% decrease in California's Black student enrollment in 2023 to 2003 to 2023, from 510,000 to 273,148. These two issues are connected to each other and the 22 other inequality areas documented in this report. Recommendations are provided at the state, district, and school level to support Black students. So this report doesn't just point out the problems, it also provides solutions, which is one of the things that I like about this report. But I'll read a couple of things about school climate to you. School climate. One, school segregation. California is the third most segregated state for Black students. So much for being liberal. Two, racial harassment and bullying. Black students in California are most likely to be bullied multiple times. Three, declining enrollment. Enrollment for Black students in California decreased by 47% from 2003 to 2023. Where are these Black babies going, y'all? 4, school closures. Schools with larger shares of Black students in California are most likely to experience school closures. I'll just stop right there for now. We'll continue to look at this report. Again, teachers are powerful, okay? We're powerful in many ways, all right? I'm looking for those teachers who are using their power for good and not evil. Tap in. Rainbow Peeps and Friends, it's time for me to share my positive thought for this episode. Today's positive thought comes to us from our forever First Lady, Michelle Obama. Because Black women can't save America by ourselves. We're going to need you to mail in those ballots. Go to your polling station and tell those around you to do the same. Michelle Obama reminds us you cannot take your freedoms for granted. Just like generations who came before us, you have to do your part to preserve and protect those freedoms. Thanks for joining me this week on Verde's Folding Chair. To stay connected with your girl, join me on IG at the_writer_Verde_Arzu, on X at Verde_Arzu, and or Facebook at the writer Verde Arzu. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can also find a copy of my book, Rainbow, a Black queer novella, and other rainbow merch on my website, verdearzu.com. Rainbow, a Black queer novella, can also be purchased online at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, as well as independent retailers. Speaking of independent retailers, Rainbow, a Black queer novella, can now be found on the shelf at A Seat at the Table, located in Elk Grove, California. So shout out to A Seat at the Table for adding Rainbow to their shelves. I am out here, y'all. If you liked what you heard and you want to hear more, be sure to write a quick comment, like the post, share this episode with your friends and fam, and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Any of these options are free and take up so little of your time, but means the world to me as a Black independent artist. I appreciate you, Rainbow Peeps and Friends. And remember, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. Thanks for listening.